Hey guys, I'm Bobby Rio, this is Rob Judge, and we've got another video for you today. Today's video, we're going to be talking about how to pass a girl's tests. Because whether you realize it or not, every time you're dealing with a girl, whether it's a conversation or whether it's over a period of a blossoming relationship, she's going to be testing you. And there's several reasons why she does this, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The first reason that a girl will test you is because you're trying too hard, and she senses that maybe you're not being yourself around her, maybe you're putting on this, like, nice guy act.
Anytime she senses there's some kind of incongruence or inconsistency in your behavior or how she perceives you, she's going to start testing you. No matter how much you feel like you're being yourself and no matter how comfortable you feel in the situation, you probably have given a couple signals off to a woman that you're acting maybe a little inconsistent, maybe you're acting a little more confident than you usually would, or a little bit more shy than you usually would, or a little bit funnier, or, you know, some aspect of your personality gets a little exaggerated, and it sends a red flag up that, oh, maybe this guy isn't exactly the person he's portraying himself as.
Yeah, and what's interesting about what Rob said is a lot of guys wonder, like, why does it seem like women like assholes? Or why do women like bad boys, right? And a lot of it is because these guys pass her tests. And the reason they do this is because they're not really trying to impress her. And they're a little bit more honest in their actions. A lot of guys go, oh, I don't want to have to be an asshole and be like, but they don't realize that by being the quote-unquote nice guy, you're actually being more dishonest than these guys are. These guys are kind of being real, and she picks up on that. And now she can let her guard down because she's like, this guy's not really trying to impress me. Something here clicks in her mind. It's like, maybe I should be paying a little bit more attention to this guy. So what I want you to do is I want you to think real quick about a guy that you know. Maybe it's yourself, who on the surface, he's good looking, he's kind of cool, he's funny, he dresses good. And he does get some girls here and there, but never the girl he really wants. And you really can't figure it out. Like, you know, why is, like, what's his, like, detriment? And I can almost guarantee it's because he's giving off a vibe that makes girls test him even more. And he's not passing these tests. So the second reason a girl will test you is that she senses that you might get clingy or needy if she hooks up with you.
Yeah, this is something that I think it's every girl's worst nightmare. If you have any female friends or even past girlfriends and you've spoken to them, it's kind of weird, but one of my favorite things to talk about with girls is sometimes just bringing up like kind of funny dating stories, dating blooper stories. And a lot of the times, if you'll talk to girls about just horrible dates they had or horrible experiences with guys that they went on dates with, it's usually because the guy got super needy or super clingy, and it goes into almost like stalker mode where it becomes, you know, comical after the fact, but when the girl's living through that, I'm sure it's horrific, and you don't want to be the guy who's giving girls these horrific, needy experiences.
Yeah, but what Rob said is actually really good. By bringing it up, it's almost preemptive. By talking about you and going, like, even a comment, like, you're not going to become one of those stalker girls that if, like, we go on a date, you're going to be, like, showing up at my work. By saying that, you're kind of acknowledging, like I've dealt with it, and I'm not that kind of guy. Like, you're kind of saying that to her, and it's kind of a preemptive move, which I think is really, really good.
That is a great pro tip. It's sometimes that, you know, when you can laugh at something or you guys can make a joke about something about, you know, past needy behavior, you're showing that you're such an authority on it that you obviously know that acting that way is not appropriate, it's not attractive, and it's never going to get you the girl, so you're not going to do it.
And let's talk about the last one, and I'm going to admit that I've been really guilty of this one. And that's when you're trying too hard to be cool, and she's trying to sense if there's any, like, so-called chinks in your armor. Like, you're coming across, like, almost like you're too cool, and she's like, is this guy for real? Is he really this confident? And she wants to know. And to me, like, when I was learning some of this stuff, I knew, like, I had to be more confident, and I knew that I had to kind of project this carefree vibe. But at the time, years ago, it wasn't real. It was like fake. So girls would throw a simple comment out there, and I would crumble, like crumble. Like, everything, my whole facade would just crumble, because she would say something like, I had one girl, and we're flirting, and she goes, I'm not going to hook up with you tonight. And all of a sudden, I did not know how to react to that. And she, like, looked at me, and, like, I started backpedaling, and everything that I had going for me was gone with that one comment.
Oh my God, and I've been burned so many times too when I was first, especially when you first start out. Because when you first start out, the analogy I always give, it's like Wile E. Coyote. If you watch the old Roadrunner cartoons, you know when he's chasing Roadrunner and he chases him off the canyon cliff, and Wile E. Coyote, he'll keep running, right, until he notices he's not on solid ground. Then he'll kind of look down, kind of look back at the camera, and then he plummets into the canyon. And I think that every guy has been that Wile E. Coyote character where, you know, you can act confident, you know, you could run on air until you realize, until a lot of the times, the moment that it stops working is when you go, oh my God, it's working.
Yeah.
And that's when you get tested. It's like, boom, it's almost like she can like hear that thought in your head and she's like, oh, time to test this guy because I don't think this is the way he really is. And I know when I was first starting out, I made that same mistake where I would go out and I would project myself as this like very, you know, gregarious, outgoing, confident, sort of like charismatic guy. And I could do it for a little bit, but as soon as like a girl started realizing this might not be the guy he really is, I would get a comment like that, like I'm not hooking up with you, or do you say this to all the girls, or you know, some you know comment that really now when I think back on it, it's ridiculous, and I kind of laugh over it because I realized I was being tested. But at the time, I just felt like she just pulled all the wind out of my sails. That, you know, it was like I just went into this tailspin where I would just try to backpedal, and I would try to validate myself, or try to, you know, try harder to prove why I was that guy, which would just make it, you know, so much worse. And of course I would lose the girl.
Yeah, girls do this, whether it's in an initial conversation where she's flirting with you and she's trying to feel you out. They also do it a lot when there's like, I don't like to use courtship, but when there's a courtship going on, when you've got her number, maybe you've gone on a date, and you're trying to kind of move things towards a relationship, if that's what you're after. And what Rob and I, now that we coach this, we've both been coaching this for 7 years, individually with guys, dealing with them, and what we found is there's almost always a moment where the girl pulls back. Maybe all of a sudden, she was answering all your texts really fast, and then boom, 2 days have gone by, she still hasn't replied to a text. Or maybe she was always available to hang out. Every time you asked her to hang out, it was like, oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I'm free. And all of a sudden now she's like, oh, I can't. But what she's ultimately doing is she's going, everything with this guy was great when I was validating him, when I was laughing at his jokes, when we were with him. But how is he when things aren't going so smooth, right?
Yeah, when she pulls back those signals that she's interested of like validating that sort of like, you know, to put in finger quotes, pimp self, like where you're just being the man, you're being charismatic, you're being funny, all your jokes are hitting. But like, it's really easy to be that guy when she's giggling, when she's texting back right away, she's showing up to dates on time, she's agreeing with everything you're saying. It's super easy to be that confident guy. I mean, I'm like the Dos Equis guy when that's happening. I'm like just the most interesting, awesome man in the world. But your real self comes out when she pulls that back.
And here's what happens when she pulls it back is you're like a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how you feel about yourself when she's giving you that instant validation. When she always wants to hang out with you, when she's answering your text, you feel like the king of the fucking world, right? And it feels really good. It's like being on a natural high. And then all of a sudden, she pulls back, and boom, it's all gone. And now you go from being a 12 to being like a 2, and you're like, what the? And now you're scurrying. You're in this like wheel of trying to get back that feeling because it felt really good when a girl's into you, especially if she's a girl you really like. And it's all about one word, and that word is certainty. When you're very certain about the way she feels about you, it's very easy to be on. And when that certainty goes away, you fall into what we call as like emotional quicksand, where all of a sudden now you don't know what's going on. You're like, you're not in stable ground, and you're like clawing back to her. And what happens when you're clawing back to her is your mind is convincing yourself, I really like this girl. She's the only one for me. I need to get her back. I need to get her back. I need to get her back. I need to do whatever I can. Meanwhile, because you have that attitude, you're just pushing her further away. She was actually just probably going to text you back like an hour ago, but then you started texting her, did I do something wrong? What happened?
Are you still alive?
Are you still alive? And you just kind of pushed her back. Now, the interesting thing about this thing is what Rob and I discovered, right? Is that this idea of certainty and stable ground is just as effective on a woman. And what guys can do is, we call it like, a lot of guys say, well, how do I pass her test? And there's plenty of ways. We always can give you examples of how to pass a test. But even more powerful than that is beginning to test a woman yourself. Because when you're into her, she feels like a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10, and she feels like the king of the world, and she kind of feels like, I got this guy. But then when you pull the rug out from under her, she's the one scurrying. She's the one going, I need to get this guy back. I need to get this guy back. I must really like him. I really must like him. So the question is, how do you do that? And that's what we figured out. And we put together a video for you where we're going to teach you 4 things that women are conditioned to chase. She can't help it. It's in her DNA. It's like an instinct in her that we call it scrambling her mind. And it gets her in that position of, like, she's just been tested. Imagine when the woman is testing you and you're like sitting at home going, why isn't she calling me back? And you're decoding her behavior with your friends, and you're calling your friends and going, she's not answering my phone, or she's texted this, what did it mean? We're going to teach you how to put a girl in that position. And the reason that we teach this, and some people say, well, isn't that manipulation? Isn't that... This is what a girl wants. This is what a girl is attracted to. This is what turns a girl on. She likes this mystery. She likes being in a position where she has to figure you out. You might have heard Rob or I say, once a girl figures you out, it's over and you'll never have her. Well, the opposite is, if a girl can't figure you out, she's going to be fighting for your attention. And we put together this video where we're going to show you 4 steps to get her fighting for your attention. Click the link below, and we're going to teach you this mind game that we call the Scrambler that's going to show you exactly what to do.